Let's Rock. Okie dokie, everybody. Welcome back. We're here with Eli Loveman, the Players Tour, Pro Tour, whatever the hell you want to call it, F&M Game Day Champion. We're here talking about the blue cards of Modern Horizons 2. Luckily for us, there's no Urzas this time around unless you're getting special packs. But we're going to get right off the bat here with something that is going to piss off approximately, 75% of the player base, depending on what Facebook group you look at. If they hate Mill and Standard, they're going to hate Mill and Modern because it's even better. We've got the triple blue wonder of Fractured Sanity. What do you think about this one, and why is it going to go very well in Mill?
Well, first off, I think Mill's kind of underrated in Modern. You really struggle versus aggressive decks, but you kind of free roll a bunch of decks where you mill their win conditions. There's like decks like Valakut or like combo decks where you need to have a specific card in your deck, and milling them just gets a lot of free wins by that way. This card, I think the cycling mode is a lot more important than the hard casting it. Triple blue is a little tough because that deck likes to play a couple black cards. It likes to play Field of Ruin to trigger the search effect. But like milling them for 4 and drawing a card, it just gets you a little bit of velocity. I think it's just a pretty smooth inclusion.
It seems pretty good. What's Sanity Grinding also?
Sanity Grinding is like a triple blue card where they mill based on the devotion of blue in your hand, I believe. Yeah, this card has a mode that isn't so heavy on color requirements, though. So I think you can play this card in a blue-black mill deck.
Yeah,
maybe you could build a mono blue one with the Sanity Grinding as well, but the Surgical Extraction and Fatal Push, I think, are too good to pass up.
Yeah, if you're putting Flame Rift and adding draw a card to it, that seems pretty good. We'll get to Flame Rift later in the red cards. But
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We're talking about red cards later. Next up, we've got something that might not see play in Modern, but for whenever I turn heel on Eli, I'm going to hand him one of these cards. And this is Inevitable Betrayal. It's the Suspend Cascade, whatever the hell you want to do.
It's bribery.
It's bribery. There you go. So is this our joke card for the review, or is this actually going to see something?
Yeah, so the thing... Alright, so... The Suspend cards are all very powerful because of the interaction with Cascade. You'd be able to cheat them into playing it an effect, which would normally cost more mana for only 3 mana, using As Foretold or Violent Outburst. However, bribery is already modern legal for starters, and it only costs 5 mana. I don't really know. This seems to me like there are a lot of cards in the in this cycle that there are a lot of cards in this cycle that could have some potential, but like you can just pay 5 for bribery. So I think they were playing it a little bit safe on this one. I wouldn't touch this one.
Yeah, I don't know what deck plays bribery already, so like free bribery.
Yeah, you can just pay 5. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Most of the creature decks in Modern too, it's like you play it against Heliod, and that's like great. I'll get a Spike Feeder. Like
maybe against Tron.
Against Tron,
as out of living, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is a very strange card. I think we should.
Next up, we have Lose Focus, a 2-mana instant here with Replicate. This one seems pretty self-explanatory. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So this one, there's a few things going on here. It's a bad mana leak. You could pay to and counter their spell if they don't have enough untapped lands. But the Replicate ability gives it a couple fringe interactions that can come up every once in a while. In a counter war, you can putting extra copies of the spell in the stack. Like you can't just counter the original copy. Their spell will still be countered. So if you need to not protect a spell, if you need to really stop something from going off, you can make a bunch of mana leaks and put them on the stack. And for the same reason, you can actually counter a Grape Shot if you have a ton of mana. That one probably won't come up as much, but maybe Empty the Warrens is a better example of that. So like if they empty for 5, you can, and you have 5 untapped mana, you can counter 3 of the copies and only get 4 goblins. So, and these are all kind of niche scenarios. Usually this is just going to be a 2-mana counter spell. So there's a lot of upside with this card, over playing it over mana leak. You got your in counter wars and against Storm. So I think could see a lot of play.
Yeah, this is for our Mono Blue Tron friends out there, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I guess No, there's no Devotion card that makes a bunch
it's
of
just
blue.
It's just a blue-eye control card.
It's a blue-eye control
Whatever.
card. Cool. Have fun.
It's not fancy, but there's some cool applications.
Next up, we actually have our first mythic of the blue cards here. We have Mercenary Regent, which seems like a Tombstalker on steroids.
Well, it might be just kind of fulfill a very similar role. Even though there's a lot more text going on, you can get it bigger or smaller. So it's kind of Tombstalker with variants. It'll probably be bigger a lot of the time though. In a blue deck. I think for like, you know, any sort of fish deck, or this one might be a prowess inclusion. Although double blue might be hard in that deck. This is probably more of a legacy card if I'm being honest, but there's no reason you couldn't see play in modern. In legacy, it's way easier. You're much more interested in paying both double blue for a threat, and also, you know, having a big gigantic creature to tempo them out with your cheap counter spells.
Manamorphose also helps this card a lot. So, yeah, more cards for blue-red prowess. Yay, Lava Dart.
It's double blue. It's double blue.
It's double blue, but yeah. Next up, since it is, I guess it's the afternoon now, but we've got Rise and Shine from the set. It's a sorcery, 2 mana. I don't know, what
Well,
is this just here for the overload, or?
Well, okay, so the front side mode is basically just the scissors, you know, and Soul Artifact, but it's a little bit worse. And you can't target Ornithopter. But it's close enough that, and that card is pretty powerful. So it's close enough to that. The interesting thing, yeah, like you said, is the overload. It can be just like your aggro 2-drop, or it can be your win condition. Not being able to target creatures is kind of rough, so you might not see it in the same sort of context of suiting up Ornithopter, like you did with in Soul Artifact. You might see this in more of like a vomit a bunch of garbage onto the board with your like Gilded Goose, your Chromatic Stars, you know, something our friend Peter would be more interested in than like an Affinity style deck. But it's close, but it's like close enough to a card that was already extremely playable that I think it's worth looking at.
Okie dokie. Well, you know, more cards for artifacts because they needed more of those, right? Next up. We do have a card that I'm extremely mad that this is not a human. It's a stupid Merfolk. It's Rashad and Dockhand, the Rashad and Port on a body. Why didn't you make this a human? I hate you, Wizards of the Coast.
You can't pay for it with Ancient Ziggurat, so you would have never activated it.
Yeah,
but the thing about this card is that I think that it's not very good. However, I do think it's better than the other 1-drop Merfolk offerings. So it might see some play if like Curse Catcher is bad.
What do you mean Curse Catcher's bad?
If Curse Catcher's bad in the metagame for some reason, also like having your 1-drop have 2 toughness is pretty important in Modern in general, or not important, but it's a very nice upside to have in Modern. So like even if you don't use the ability, Merfolk might want this just so that it like doesn't like. It just so like, you know, you actually do curve out every once in a while instead of, you know, just never with all you just have mono 2-drops. So it's kind of just a curve filler creature. I don't know if there's other 1-drop Merfolk that are like playable in mono blue. I know there's a green one from Ixalan, but it's just like ignoring the ability, 1/2 for 1, like Merfolk. Let's go.
When's the last time somebody's gotten got by a Curse Catcher? Like 2007? Like
yeah, I mean it's a face-up interaction. Yeah, like.
Oh. If I lose to this card, I'm going to be really upset.
I mean, you're not going to lose to this card. You're going to lose to.
I'm going to lose to all the other garbage, but I'm going to lose to this.
Okay, yeah.
They're going to like tap my land, and it's going to be inconsequential.
That is frustrating.
Yeah. Next up, in the blue set review, we've got Step Through, which is a little nod to a Future Sight card that I'm going to put up on the screen right here, called what the fuck is it?
Vedalken Aethermage.
Vedalken Aethermage. One of the ugliest cards I can think of with the most word vomit on a card.
Both in terms of rules text and artwork.
Yeah, but this one, a lot cleaner. This one,
this is a lot simpler.
Step Through, Wizard Cycling 2.
Ignore the mana cost and the actual like thing that it does. This card is a Wizard Cycling 2 card. Now, the previous version of this card was Wizard Cycling for 3, and that's really expensive, but being able a 2-mana instant speed uncounterable tutor effect, even if it's kind of narrow, I think is powerful enough. If there's ever a combo deck where you need like a wizard to go off, for example, there's like I know in Historic there's like a Neoform deck that uses Narumeha, which is a wizard. So that's an example of a wizard that's a combo piece. But yeah, just a kind of a cheap tutor, a niche one, but it's it's cheap. So.
For those people with those mono blue wizard decks out there in EDH, 1, I hate you. 2, this goes in your deck. So.
Yeah, it's a common, so like you might miss it, so I wanted to include that one.
but Vidalcan Aether Mage.
Yeah,
Not for me. No, thank
I
you.
don't know where the card goes.
So next up, we have what we could consider the most powerful card in the set, and I think it might be, and that is, it's definitely not subtle. It's Subtlety.
Yeah.
So, what about this one?
All right, so we had last Modern Horizons. We had Force Syndication, which protected blue mages from combos. Being a cancel as well. But only combos that involve non-creature spells. So this is the other side of that. This one hitting planeswalkers and creatures. There's a few things here to look out for. First of all, the rate as a hard cast is pretty decent. So you could, it might actually not be the best in blood control. It might be the best in some sort of like a deck with flicker effects, or maybe even in a Kiki Chord style deck, just as a way to stop. Primeval Titan is a big card that this card stops. Restoration Angel could see a comeback. You never know. That would be a nice side effect of these creatures. And then the actual, in terms of the actual countering ability, it's a memory lapse. It's not actually a counter spell. It puts it on top of the deck. So that's good and bad. It gets around things like Cavern of Souls, which, like I said, is important for Primeval Titan. Unfortunately, your tribal creature decks will be hurt by this one. On the other side, though, if there's something you really need to deal with, this is not the best answer as a pitch card. Like if you're gonna die to a Mantis Rider hit and they put it on top of your deck, like they're like they have to deal with it the same thing next turn. Same thing is true with your Caverning and Primeval Titan. It only buys you one turn, even though like you have to skip your draw. It's like a full card because you draw the same card next turn. So those are the most important things to keep in mind with this card. You're only buying it one time. You're getting a good rate on the hard cast. So there's a lot. It's a lot to unpack with this card.
Yeah, this one on the face, very powerful, and then once you get past that point, still very powerful, still very complex.
Yeah, it's not like some of the other above creatures in this cycle, which either have a weak ETB or a bad hard cast rate. This is the best one on. I think this is probably the best one.
I've died to much worse.
It's close though. Yeah.
Than a 4-mana 3/3 flyer in Modern.
Yeah.
So. Next up, after that one, we've got Suspend, which I'm incredibly surprised that they've never
Just
made this card. Like, how is this card coming out in 2021 and not 2007? But this one's a 1-mana instant that basically gives something Suspend and puts 2 time counters on it.
Yeah, this is a kind of weird card. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it spell or creature, or is it just?
It's just creature.
Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of like, the reason that it's on this list is because it's only 1 blue mana. The effect is not very good. It's like you have to deal with the problem again in 2 turns, and it's kind of just like a weird unsummon where they get their creature back, but they don't have to like recast it. I think the best thing about this card overall is its interaction with Teferi Time Raveler. If you for some reason wanted to play a deck with 4 Teferi Time Raveler, this is an insane removal spell with that. The interaction there is that you cannot cast cards during your upkeep. So when they go to get their creature back, Teferi just says no, and it stays exiled. So it's kind of bad. Very good with Teferi. Time Raveler, sorry, not Hero Dominator. It's very good with Teferi Time Raveler. That's about it, though.
Yeah, one of those could see play, probably won't see play, but, screw it, it's on the list. Next up, because Merfolk players didn't have enough stupid cards to play, we've got, Valin of Sea and Sky, thank you. I think this was a Brad Nelson card, if I remember him talking about it on Twitter. But,
yeah, I recall that as well.
This card seems very, very good. And I'm very upset about it.
Could you read it out for us?
Yeah, for everybody at home, because Eli and I actually do the research for these. It's got indestructible as long as you have 2 other Merfolk. Whenever it attacks, you draw a card, and other Merfolk have Ward 1, which if they have become a target of spell or ability, it Frost Titans except for 1 instead of 2.
Yeah, counter it. All right, so this is obviously an insanely powerful card with very narrow application, so you can print something like this. I don't know what the curve looked like in Merfwolk before, but like Mercenary just like out of here.
Bye bye.
Yeah, this one.
Maybe Thassa too.
I think it's yeah.
These kind of go together.
But yeah, two blue pips.
Yeah.
Yeah, this the being able to generate advantage like by flashing in with the ether vial during the end step and then attacking immediately, getting your card back, being able to protect itself, being able to slow down your opponent's removal spells. Like this really it really just does it all. Like goober, it really just does it all. Like it's everything you want. Like I don't know what more I can say. Like it's just like a snap 4 of, and it's a snap 4 of in this one deck. But like it just like it does what the Merfwolk deck wants to do, which is not run out of gas and protect all of its lords. Like
yeah, every deck I play loses to Merfwolk, if you can tell. So I don't like this card. I might have to play Merfwolk.
Some decks that other people play might now lose to Merfwolk as well.
Oh, I might have to play Merfwolk. I feel bad about myself.
You gotta get it out of your system. It'll be fine.
Let's see. Next up. We have Thought Monitor, which is the big artifact boy, girl, whatever you want to call it. Affinity for artifacts, flying whenever it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. This seems like it might make the cut in some sort of bigger affinity deck that wanted to play Master of Ethereum or something like that, but this is what you have instead.
Yeah, so there are a lot of cards with affinity in this set, and I wasn't sure on how to evaluate all of them. I think this one is probably the most fairly obvious one. You're probably not going to get to the 1 mana all the time, because it's an 8-drop. But if you're paying like 3 for this card, you're getting a pretty good deal. And like, it also just helps with your threat density to cut a card like not have to include a card like Thoughtcaster in your deck. I also like that it's pushing you in more of a creature-based, payoff for having a lot of artifacts in your deck and not just like thought restoring them out. It's more of like I'm gonna Galvanic Blast you and maybe play a couple equipment and play this 3/2 flyer, draw a couple cards, play another Ornithopter that I drew for turn. Yeah, I think it's a good direction for that deck to take.
What about that blue steel deck that was I don't know how many years ago? Would this be something for that, or
I don't know how many.
I don't even remember how that deck works.
I don't know how many cheap artifacts that deck.
Yeah,
7 is a lot. You're gonna have to play like Darksteel. So yeah, you have to play like all of the maybe some of the tapped artifact lands that are in this set.
Yeah.
A ton of more free cheap cantripping artifacts. You might be interested in Chromatic Star now in Affinity, just to like kind of get like enough permanents into play.
That's enough about this card because it's very on the nose about what it does. Next up.
What is it?
It's another Merfwolk.
No.
Tide Shaper.
Oh, this one. Yeah.
1 mana, 1/1 kicker.
Well, you gotta You gotta like this one because it blows up the land. It kills the land.
Okay, Merfolk players out there, before you come from my head, I like this card.
It kills the land.
It kills a Tron land. It kills a land. It kills anything. It enters the battlefield. Something becomes an island for as long as it remains on, and then as long as they have an island, it's a 1 mana 2/2. I can get behind that. It's just the fact that it's a Merfolk.
Yeah. Once again, it's nice that so this card does 2 things, which is be a 1-drop Merfolk, which they have literally 0 playable 1-drop Merfolks.
Yes.
But also it lets you save deck building slots by not including your Spreading Seas effect. And also, just because it's Spreading Seas is an effect that other decks played.
Yeah.
So this is not just a pure Merfolk card, unlike some of the other Merfolk card lists. It just happens to also go on the Merfolk. Any deck that's blue and plays creatures and wants to hate out Tron, Valkyrie, it wants to just disrupt an opponent's mana base. It's a good inclusion.
There might be some weird blue-black shitty creatures deck or something like that this could go into.
Blue-white Ephemerate.
Blue-white Ephemerate or something like that. But yeah. Next up, we've got the old cards, and I wanted to skip over this one just because it would have been really funny. But we're just going to talk about Counterspell because we have to. We're professionals here. We have to talk about Counterspell. I'm never going to play this card. You're never going to play this card. But some people out there might play this card. Is Counterspell going to break Modern? I don't think so, because Mana Leak was sort of the same thing, but this is double blue, so now it just screws up people's mana bases. There might be some 3-color blue deck that doesn't even want to play this because it's double blue.
Okay, so earlier we were talking about the pitch cards and how some of the pitch cards are harder to cast because naturally you don't play as many like white cards or black cards, whereas some of them are easy to cast. Where you're gonna play, if you have a green deck, it's gonna have a lot of green cards. If you play a blue deck, it's gonna have a lot of blue cards. Also, we've already seen blue mages make concessions to their mana base in order to cast cards like Archmage's Charm, triple blue, cards cast like Cryptic Command, triple blue. Like those are higher up the curve, which is easier, but like it's double blue. Like I think this will be a pretty clear inclusion, and like you said, like Mana Leak was mostly sort of the same thing, like for most of the people playing Modern, and now big mana decks don't get free wins because they can tap their Urza's Tower or tap 3 Dominant Grounds that they ramped into play in order to like get their spell out on time. So I think it actually is a pretty good inclusion. The last thing I want to mention is that Mana Leak's probably still not dead. There's probably some sort of there's probably tempo decks. They want to run your Mana Leak negate, like decks that are only lightly touching blue, like a Bant Company deck, like sideboard counter spells.
Or something like Jeskai or whatever that might not have the extra blue mana sitting around. Jeskai decks do play Cryptic Command and all that, but...
Yeah. Like a 3-card blue deck might have a tougher time, but I think they could probably be managed. I said last time, but the actual last thing is that in a counter war, in the blue mirrors, there's a lot more blue mana that's going to be involved in getting taxes.
You're going to have to think about that. I'm not going to have to think about that because I'm not playing this card, but...
Well, I don't know. Maybe
you're going to have to.
Maybe one day we'll have blue-green Cocoa and you'll have 2 of these in your sideboard, but
I'll just play Negate. That's the same thing.
The counter Primeval Titan, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
Here's the other card we had on our list that I don't know if this would break Modern or not, but Upheaval is just like a very powerful card.
Yeah, we play too much cube to not put this
on
the list.
To Nathan Calvin out there, we play too much cube. We know how powerful this card is.
Yeah, we learned our lesson.
I don't know what it goes in.
Yeah, having learned the cube lesson, what you do with Upheaval is you put it in a deck that generates a lot of mana, and then float it all, and then cast this card, and then reset the game. But you start the resetted game with like 4 blue mana floating, and then use it to deploy something. So I'm gonna have to go with Mono Blue Tron on this one, kids.
Ooh, we've got another Mono Blue Tron mention. Let's put on the sirens.
Yeah, I mean, Scaped, any green deck.
Didn't they play? They played. What's the Overload card?
Cyclonic Rift.
They play Cyclonic Rift. Like they might as well want to pick up their stupid 7 mana thing that they got anyway. So.
Yeah, Cyclonic. Yeah, so, I mean, Cyclonic Rift is pretty good, but this one just kills them because it bounces all their lands as well. Or hopefully it kills them. It's Mono Blue Tron.
Yeah, it's Mono Blue Tron. You never know.
But if the green decks will have Primeval Titan in their threat slot, like the green Tron decks will have some sort of Eldrazi. So I'm gonna have to go with Mono Blue Tron on this one, kids.
And with that, we have the end of the blue cards from Modern Horizons 2. There's some pretty heavy hitters here. There's some pretty funny ones also, and then there's just the ones that we don't know about. But what do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. But that's it from Eli and I for the blue cards from Modern Horizons 2. And we'll see you again real soon. Thanks for watching.